Is also doing Project 10 from the Competent Communications Manual. His speech should be 8 to 10 minutes long, and the title is Slow Your Life. Welcome, Tom.
This is Project 10 for me. I've been with Toastmasters for a few years. Many of you know I drop out here and there because I have other engagements. I'm going to not be here after January for a while. Project 10 was supposed to be the capstone of this series of talks that I've been giving about memory. But as Sasha said to me just a moment ago, she said, "Tom, are you going to inspire me?" And I thought about that this morning. And I really had put together a talk on memory. And I decided not to do it tonight. I wanted to talk about something from my heart. And I wanted to talk about something that I wasn't sure I was going to talk about until I walked up here right now. I jotted down some notes around 3 o'clock this afternoon. And I thought I'd come up here and talk. My father died in 1989. He had had a couple of heart attacks. He was getting older. He was 83 years old. And I got a phone call that he finally died. He was out in the backyard digging up some bushes with a pickaxe and did it. Boom, whatever. It wasn't a surprise that he died. It was unexpected that he died that day. He could have died a week later, maybe even a year later. And so I wasn't shocked. I didn't cry. A couple weeks later, actually it was a couple of months later, I got a phone call from my brother. I was at work at Kings County Hospital. And he said, "Andy Colgan's dad just passed away." I said, "Really?" And I had known Andy Colgan's dad for a long time. I knew him as his dad. I also knew him as an adult, and I liked him a lot. I liked Dick Colgan a lot. And so I took out a piece of paper and I started to write Andy Colgan a letter and tell him how I knew his dad. And in the middle of the letter, I started to cry. And I wasn't crying for his dad, and I wasn't crying for him. I was crying for my own father. That was the last time I cried. Until this weekend. And I cried twice. This isn't simple. I think as a country we're ready to maybe discuss some things. I see some very big pictures. I see some very small pictures. I start with the war in Afghanistan. We spend $2 billion a week. We have spent $1.5 trillion in our rat hole. We talk about cutting back services to our seniors, to our disadvantaged, and we keep throwing money down a rat hole. We have cut back mental health services in this country. We've been eliminating the state hospitals all over the country. That was the psychiatric safety net. We stopped funding these things because we would treat them in prison rather than in a hospital because it's cheaper to arrest them and keep them in prison than it is to bring them into a psychiatric facility. These are not good things. These are not good things at all. We used to have psychologists. School psychologist is a master's level degree. And most schools had one. They're the people who diagnose your kid with learning disabilities. They're somebody who watched out after your kids to some degree. They were more than a counselor. They were there for the kids. We have to outsource that now because we don't have enough funds in our education system. So what we do is we hire private corporations to send various psychologists to your school, and they'll do some testing. But they're not your school. They're the company's psychologists. Your kids are everybody's kids to them. It's not their kids. We're spending money on a war, and we're letting our kids slip by. And it's crazy to me. And I want to talk about a number of things. I want to talk about guns. You know, a Bushmaster rifle. When I was a kid, you bought a gun, because we used to go hunting all the time. It wasn't real hunting, but, you know, walk around with shotguns and stuff. You went to the sporting goods store, and we used to go to Rogers Sporting Goods store, and there was fishing reels and basketballs, and there was some shotguns and some hunting rifles and some pistols. You go into a gun store now, it's It's a veritable arsenal. It's urban assault weapons. Does anybody need a bushmaster to kill a deer? Does anybody need a bushmaster to protect their house? We moved from it being a sport into people buying armor-piercing rounds. Why do you need this in your house? You know, and if you're the gun lobby and you say, you know, we have the Second Amendment, we need to protect our right to bear arms. Well, we don't have a right to own hand grenades. We don't have a right to own a bazooka. At some level, we've said, you know what? This isn't covered by the Second Amendment. And I'm going to get to the First Amendment in a minute. But that's guns. Let's put that over to that side. Let's talk about some of these kids that show up at Columbine, that show up at Virginia Tech, that show up at the movie theater. A lot of these kids are high-functioning autistic kids. They have Asperger's syndrome. My brother called me up one time. I was at work at a computer company at that point in my life. And my brother's a computer programmer. And he said, do you know anything about Asperger's syndrome? I said, Jerry, stand up in your cube, look around, 85% of your fellow workers probably have it. He goes, that's what we think. We're all self-diagnosing each other. We all think we got it. I said, you do. You got it. The engineers got it. The programmers got it. There's an old joke. How do you tell the introverted from the extroverted computer programmer? The extrovert is the one that looks at your shoes when he talks to you. These are troubled kids sometimes. They're often very, very smart, but they're socially awkward. And so what happens, and we look at this chain of events, I said it's not simple. It's not simple. These kids with Asperger's syndrome, high-functioning autism, what happens is they stick out in the schools, they get picked on, they get bullied, and the schools don't exactly know what to do with it. When I sat on school committees, and in the high school they asked me, because of my expertise, what would they do around marijuana smoking in the high school, and I said, I'm looking at your survey, 70% of your kids say that they're sometimes fearful to get on the bus. I said, the hell with them smoking pot. Let's make sure our school is safe from bullying. Why aren't we doing that? And so what happens is the parents decide that they're going to cure it. How do you do it? You bring your kid home. You do homeschooling. The damn kid's socially awkward, and we're going to pull him out of a social situation where there's professional teachers to help, where there's professional psychologists to help, where there's administrators to care, and you're going to bring this kid home to an isolated place and homeschool them because they're afraid of bullies? Let's deal with the bullies. What are we doing? In the world of therapy, these kids are known as basement kids. They become teenagers, and they start going downstairs and playing video games. And they're playing them endlessly. And people are laughing, and you're going to laugh more, because in the next year, we're going to come out with the American Psychiatric Association's new diagnoses, and internet addiction is going to be one, and people will make fun of it. Take a look at these kids. They're on the internet playing Halo, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, in which the visuals are people's heads getting blown off, their eyes popping out. It's in vivid high definition. It's got sound that you can hear the blood spurting out of veins, and we allow these kids to spend hour after hour after hour practicing how to walk through a school, how to walk through a college, how to walk through a movie theater and kill everyone in sight, and we wonder what the hell is going on. What the hell is going on? California tried to outlaw these. They tried to start to regulate the violent content of some of these video games. And the Supreme Court struck it down. They said it was a right to free speech. The people who develop these games don't care about our culture. They don't care about our kids. What they care about is dollars. And to be cloaked under the protection of the First Amendment, the same way that we cloak assault weapons under the Second Amendment, we need to all start asking ourselves, what the hell is going on? And I wanted tonight to just be part of that discussion. I wanted tonight not to talk about memory, not to talk about slow your life. I just needed to say something. I don't want to cry tomorrow. Thank you.
If everyone would please take a minute to evaluate Tom's speech.